In Detroit, on December 11, 1994, a family's innocence was stolen in broad daylight, transforming a routine outing into an investigative nightmare. Duan Sins, a cheerful 4-year-old boy, was at the busy Centerpoint shopping mall, accompanied by his mother, Duana, and his stepfather, Victor. The tragedy began with a moment of distraction that quickly turned into an abyss of despair. Duana had gone into a store's fitting room to try on clothes. While the mother's initial account suggested she was in the fitting room for a brief period, the police investigation later placed that time at approximately 2 hours. Upon leaving, the mother looked for Duan, but he had disappeared. Panic ensued. The search began immediately, with mall employees and customers mobilized, but the facts were confusing and contradictory from the start. The police confronted Duana and Victor, and the lack of solid evidence quickly raised suspicions about the couple. Where, exactly, did the boy disappear? Nobody, neither the numerous security cameras nor the countless witnesses in a busy shopping mall, managed to record Duan being taken or leaving the premises. This led the police to focus on a devastating theory: the involvement of the parents themselves. Duana and Victor were subjected to a polygraph test, the popularly known lie detector. The result? Both were considered liars regarding Duan's disappearance. Although the polygraph is not accepted as evidence in court due to its lack of scientific reliability, the result turned public opinion, and much of the investigative focus, against them. The case remained stagnant for years, only reopening with frustrating leads and false hopes. The first of these came from Atlanta, when the remains of a child were found and linked to a gravedigger who, shockingly, confessed to murdering children. However, DNA testing confirmed that they were not Duan's remains. In a bizarre development, an adopted man who claimed to bear a strong physical resemblance to the missing boy contacted the family and the police, convinced that he could be Duan. Once again, a quick DNA test ruled out the possibility. The case went cold again, becoming a painful and unresolved mystery for the family and the Detroit community. In 2020, Duan's mother, passed away without ever knowing the truth about her son's fate, taking with her what she knew about those crucial moments at the shopping mall. The police never completely ruled out the possibility of the stepfather, Victor, being involved, especially since he was heard by the police mentioning a noise the night before the disappearance, something that was never fully explained. Some theories speculate that an argument between the couple could have escalated into an accidental or fatal injury to the child, and that the disappearance at the shopping mall was an elaborate staging to cover up the crime. The case of Duan Sins, a child who vanished without a trace in a public place, remains unsolved, with the lingering suspicion that the tragedy may have begun long before he arrived at the Centerpoint shopping mall. This is the case of Brianna Maitland, a determined young woman who, at 17, was desperately seeking her independence amidst the cold and isolation of Vermont. After turning 18 in 2004, Brianna decided to move out of her parents' house in Franklin. She moved into the house of her friend, Kate Manning, in Enosburg Falls. However, this newfound autonomy came at an emotional and physical cost. Conflicts soon arose, and Brianna found herself forced to become a temporary nomad, depending on the goodwill of friends for a place to sleep. She spent nights sleeping on other people's couches and, on the coldest days of Vermont's harsh winter, was often forced to spend the night in her own car, an old but essential 1988 Oldsmobile sedan. Despite her vulnerability, Brianna was fighting to get back on her feet. She had dropped out of high school but was working 2 jobs, as a dishwasher in a restaurant and a waitress at a local hotel, while studying for a GED program. She was finally finding some financial and personal stability, focused on a new beginning. Tragedy struck on the night of March 19, 2004. Brianna left her second job around 11:30 p.m. and took Route 118. What happened in the following hours is the center of a mystery that has lasted for more than 2 decades. The next morning, her car was found crashed into the side of an abandoned farmhouse. The impact occurred at an angle suggesting the rear of the car had hit the corner of the structure. The vehicle was empty. The scene was strange. The headlights were on, the key was in the ignition, the door was unlocked, and, crucially, Brianna's belongings, including her wallet with money and documents, were intact inside. Initially, the police and family thought she had simply run away to avoid a legal problem with the accident. However, this theory was quickly dismissed. Why would a young woman leave everything behind, including her money and identity, and disappear on foot in the middle of the night? The case turned into a criminal investigation, attracting multiple false leads and dark theories. An anonymous tip suggested that Brianna had been murdered by 2 local drug dealers, Ramon Ryan and Nathaniel Jackson, due to an alleged debt related to crack cocaine use. Other lines of investigation led to dead ends. In 2006, a casino image in Atlantic City caused a stir, but the woman in the photo was not Brianna. The case was even linked to the notorious serial killer Israel Keys in 2012, but the evidence was never sufficient. The only persistent physical clue came from new DNA analyses in 2016 and 2022, which indicated the presence of genetic material from an unknown individual inside the Oldsmobile, suggesting that a third person was at the accident scene or inside the car. What really happened on that isolated road remains an enigma. The most accepted theories involve an approach by a stranger. Someone may have approached the car at the accident scene, pretended to help, and then kidnapped or harmed her, or a revenge plot linked to her social circle. Her vulnerable lifestyle, sleeping in temporary places, may have exposed her to dangerous people. The FBI, recognizing the seriousness of the mystery, even offered a $40,000 reward for information leading to her whereabouts. More than 21 years have passed since Brianna Maitland disappeared. The young woman who was striving for a new beginning was swallowed by the darkness of Highway 118, and her stopped car, with its headlights on, remains a silent symbol of an unsolved mystery. J. Dean Slater, a young British man, was no stranger to danger, and his disappearance in Tenerife is tragically linked to a past of violence he tried to leave behind. Before becoming a face plastered on missing person posters, his name was already connected to a shocking crime that occurred in August 2021 in England. Jay, along with others, was involved in a brutal and premeditated attack on a young man named Tom Hilton. The victim was lured into a trap at an abandoned factory, where he was attacked by a group armed with blunt and sharp objects, including axes, machetes, and golf clubs. The assault was relentless. Tom was chased down an isolated road, suffering serious injuries that nearly cost him his life. The violence, believed to have been motivated by bullying or revenge, led to the trial of 8 teenagers, including Jay. The case gained notoriety in the British press. During the trial in 2023, the defendant's behavior, with laughter and mockery, outraged Jay's mother, Deb, who publicly criticized the sentence, considered lenient, rehabilitation and community service instead of prison. Shortly after the trial, in June 2024, Jay apparently decided to flee the consequences and controversy, traveling to Tenerife in the Canary Islands for the NRG Music Festival. The real mystery began in the early hours of June 17. After a night of partying, Jay made an incredibly risky and fatal decision. He accepted a ride with 2 men he had just met, heading to an unknown Airbnb in the Teno Rural National Park, a mountainous and extremely isolated area, about 37 kilometers from his group of friends and where he was staying. In the morning, Jay refused a ride back, saying he would try to catch a bus that would never reach his remote location. He called a friend, saying his phone battery was low and that he was completely lost in a difficult-to-access region. This was his last contact. The search for Jay, conducted by Spanish authorities and aided by volunteers and his family, mobilized rescue teams for weeks, but the mountainous terrain and deep ravines hampered the operation. The tragic outcome came on July 15, when his body was found in one of these ravines. The autopsy indicated a fall from a high place as the cause of death, resulting in broken bones, suggesting a fatal accident in the treacherous terrain. However, questions persist. Was it a simple accident? Or is there a darker connection to his violent past? Theories of revenge have emerged, suggesting that someone connected to the 2021 attack followed him to Tenerife. Another disturbing line of investigation involved the men who gave him a ride. Furthermore, Jay's Instagram account appeared to have been accessed shortly after his disappearance, adding a layer of mystery to his death. J. Dean Slater, a young man with a history of violence, met his tragic and lonely end on an isolated island. His case is a somber reminder that sometimes, past choices and the dangers of recklessness can have irreversible consequences.